So this stemming from in this pattern of culture, society, civilization of my own, some people do not come in contact with their culture. They stay rooted in their society. They only go as deep as their society and their social influence and their social terms and phrases, socialized terms and phrases. And what this does is keeps them separated or blind to deeper informing agents from which the society grew out of, stemmed from. And in the same way, this seems related to me to the feelings, values, behavior, and when behavior becomes patterned, roles. I told my friend, a man must learn where he stands in time for him to come to understand the role he is playing. But if we go back to our roots of our culture, if we go past our social imprints and our family imprints, and we go deeper to our culture, that life pulse that informs them, I believe we may have a realization, we have the potentiality of having a realization that there is something deeper than the surface. And this goes for every society. And this can resolve every society, bring a relativity and a comparativeness. I think it was Campbell, on one of his talks I had a tape of, he mentions the difference between a comparative mythologist and a classical mythologist. With a classical mythologist, all the myths are completely separate from each other. They're their own unique thing. Whereas a comparative mythologist obviously compares them and sees what is common, reoccurring, archetypal. There are many different cultures. There are many different societies represented in America. But there's a few that have been initiated into the view of the culture. But what I realized was that not everyone can integrate their feelings as they are. They have to rely upon terms and phrases, conditions, categories of mind, social and family and time-oriented imprints, rather than going back to the root, where all is one. This is the idea where the Godhead is unified and it split itself off into infinity so that it could relate to itself. But ultimately, at its root, we're all one. We can get all caught up in trying to describe and explain all these things. And you know, those that want to remain separate and disassociated and individualized and special, unique, do not want to unify. They actually are looking for things to set themselves up in opposition to, which is conflicting. You know, they seek conflict. They don't seek resolution. They seek conflict. And I've met those that they pretend to want unity, they pretend to want peace, but they thrive in one conflict in their life after another, after another, after another. And they may be the great equalizer, where they may play that role where they bring in an answer, but all they're doing is being the answer man, the one that everybody goes to. And this creates more dependency. Rather than realization and understanding, people just accept them. They accept that, okay, I'm going to go there for my answer, and I'm not going to find the answer for myself. I'm going to rely on this person to give me the answer. So I think there are those that are predisposed to go to their root, go to their feelings, understand their feelings in realization, where they do not have to put names and terms and phrases upon them. Those that tap into their culture. But in tapping into the culture, there's this realization that we're all one. And having to do with my first idea that I had this morning, I realized that it has something to do with the eyes. Being able to recognize and not edit out what's really going on. And that means to be able to put to rest our own evaluations of trying to put terms and phrases and conditions and imprints, place what we see into our organization and just take it as it is, the thing in itself, without our values contaminating it. The values that have been instilled in our time, the values that have been instilled by our family, the values that have been instilled by our society. And just seeing it as it is. And I realize that there are some that I think we can be trained to do this. I think we can develop into it at one level. But I also think that there are those that are naturals to it. And you got to be careful. People who are naturals to it, the thing is that if you can put to rest your own evaluations and take things as they are, and not like in a courtroom where somebody is either guilty or not guilty. That's an evaluation. The end game is guilty or not guilty. And that affirms the tension and conflict, the opposition, setting ourselves up in opposition. And it's also a political game as well as a social game. These are all political, very important roles. They are pattern behaviors that require very specific valuations for them to be fixed and become a role. They have to maintain a pattern. Whereas those that can put aside their values and let the thing in itself that they're observing come in direct contact with their feelings, then there's, I think, a growth and a change that occurs there that is so fluid that one realizes that these roles are fleeting. These big individuals are just little roles dancing on a stage someone is portraying for a time. And you can't take it too serious. Because like the feelings, they come and they go. Just wait a few minutes and you'll have another feeling. And this only applies to certain people. There's a lot of people that just can't live by that. I mean, you can't have a civilization that way. Civilization is based on these pattern behaviors which manifest themselves in fixed and set fast roles. which, being that our root of our being, our feelings, is always changing, a fixed and steadfast role shall pass. It cannot stay. Part of me has this feeling of realized understanding, that aha moment, and then part of me also feels more alone than unified, because I realize that you can't make a blind man see. You know, there's lots of people that espouse that you can. But being in the trenches and working with people and dealing with these perspectives, I realize, you know, some people get great fulfillment by playing a fixed and steadfast role. And I wouldn't want to take that away from them. And as far as my children go, I think I'm coming to terms with my youngest daughter getting married, and that you know, somebody can always surprise me, but I don't think I'll be playing the role that I imagine myself to be playing, and I have to come to terms with that. You know, do I want to compromise my relatedness within myself for a fleeting experience? And why would I do such a thing? I have to ask myself, why would I take this one opportunity that is just wonderful and let it slip through my hands? And I think it's a very important lesson for my daughters. Something deep inside of me says, you know, they have to make their own choices. And I would love to be able to walk my daughter down the aisle. But it's got to come naturally. I've got to be asked. And if I'm not asked, I have to come to terms with that. And so that's basically what I'm struggling with. But I can't help but see that there is a lesson. There's many lessons. I realized long ago that I enacted a role rather unconsciously that would succeed in instilling in my children the ability, and my family, the ability to draw them out of past patterned roles of behavior that were born into them as a result of our families, their mother's family and my family. And I would have to really just dissolve all values so that when the values are dissolved, we reach deeper to ignite that fire inside of them, to go deeper past all the surface conflicts and just do what they know they have to do, because it's the life pulse that is arising from deep within at the root of their being, which is a mystery, that says a blind yes to life. But not in such a way as to become, you know, an addict like their mother, which had come from 5 generations of addicts, or behaviors that could be readily fit into the patterned role of addictive behavior. The archetype. How do you dissolve an archetype? That's what I have observed, what I've done, out of the love for my children and the hope that they could blossom and fruit into a new role, their own role, even beyond me and my little renditions. Have a good day.